Good evening, Mike.
Hello, Dan.
Okay, I want to welcome everyone to the Lawndale City Council meeting for Monday, July the 6th. I'm going to ask the Assistant City Clerk to give us the roll call. Call the meeting to order at 6:30, and let's have the roll call.
Mayor Pro Tem Suarez.
Here.
Councilmember Osborne.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Kearney.
Here.
Mayor Pullen Miles.
Here.
All members present.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'm going to ask Councilmember Daniel Reed to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Yes, sir.
All right, please join along with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right, let's have our public safety report. Captain Allen available.
Yes, I am. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm here tonight to present the public safety report for June 16th through July 6th. As we continue to go through the summer, the city's biggest concern is still COVID-19 and its effect on our citizens, city government, and the nation at large. As we move forward, we continue to ask everyone to adhere to the county's health guidelines in order to keep each other safe and secure from this virus. In regards to crime, the city's crime rate remains low. We continue to see a decrease in assaults, burglaries, and thefts. As previously mentioned, the city and the county have seen a huge rise in vehicle thefts during the past few months. However, during the last council meeting, I mentioned we discovered a local chop shop near the city of Lawndale. Several suspects were arrested and numerous stolen vehicles were recovered. Since its discovery, the theft of vehicles in the city of Lawndale has dropped 13%. In regards to Project Room Key, there have been no significant incidents at the hotels. However, we continue to monitor the activities at those locations. Last, I know during this time, one of the biggest issues is the proliferation and shooting of illegal fireworks. As a city, you dedicated deputy sheriffs to battle this nuisance. During the past week, the station received 42 calls of illegal fireworks in the city. Deputies also conducted 61 patrol checks in an attempt to locate violators. In answering these calls and performing these checks, deputies cited 13 persons and seized 125 pounds of fireworks. As all of you are aware, the biggest problem with illegal fireworks is that it's our neighbors, friends, and family members that are responsible for this illegal activity. With a city of 33,000 people, even if only 0.5% of the population is doing this activity, that's almost 200 people a night lighting off illegal fireworks. And I know at times it's even more than that. I want the council to know that as a department, with the resources available and within the confines of the law to address this issue, and we will continue to do so. This concludes my report, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Captain, for that report. Are there any questions of the Captain's report? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to thank you, Captain, for your report and the fine work your deputies are doing for the city. Let's move on to oral communications. Assistant City Clerk, let's give the oral communication.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We received 2 oral communications. I'll read them verbatim. First one, Randall Abram, Lawndale resident. In the year of the pandemic, it was hard to determine if the 4th of July in Lawndale would be altered from the chaos of previous years. Would renters who have lost their jobs and are not paying rent to landlords forego the pricey non-essential of fireworks? Obviously, the caliber of people in Lawndale chose to ignore mass and social distancing as well as the law. Fireworks and exposing their children to what AQMD cites as high levels of particulate matter and metal air pollutants contributing to health effects was more essential to these households. For the past few months, Lawndale residents have been subjected to exploding mortars in our neighborhoods, which never diminished, despite daily calls to the Sheriff's Department. It didn't seem to matter whether residents of the job of code enforcement and located these criminals to provide addresses, because night after night the blast continued. And on July 4th, the entire arsenal of carcinogenic illegal fireworks was unleashed consistently for over 4 hours. My surrounding neighborhood was a war zone, and I must have made a half dozen calls that went unheeded before the dispatcher started to just hang up on me. In frustration, I drove around to the neighborhood looking for black and white or unmarked cars and came up empty. This is what defunding the police looks like: rampant lawlessness and total lack of respect for the law by the criminal who know there is no enforcement. On 172nd and Fremona, there are several houses who are flagrant abusers throughout the year. To my knowledge, the neighbors have reported them to no avail. Unconned, a law enforcement team could have walked down the street south of 71st and cited household after household for illegal fireworks. This year, it seemed that 90% of the fireworks were illegal. On my block, there were 3 households with Safe and Sane, and they did not require 12 hours to celebrate. At 2:30 in the morning, we were still hearing blasts that set off car alarms. In the month preceding, law enforcement had the opportunity to cite the most prolific households because they stood out. Was our crime map spiraling out of control that prevented deputies from answering these calls, or were they stuck wasting time monitoring the homeless hotels? Was it left to the deputies' discretion to decide which laws they would implement? As the city of Lawndale was late in requesting a fireworks suppression team, how many patrol and undercover cars were on duty? How many citations were issued before and on July 4th? If the city is unable to control this lawlessness due to fireworks, then it needs to ban them in Lawndale. Contrary to what council members said at the last meeting, in the Orange County grand jury report that I previously distributed to this council, safety officials concluded that the sale of Safe and Sane fireworks contribute to a significant increase in illegal fireworks activity. Second public comment, Pam London, resident. Having complained about our deputies spending time at the homeless hotels, I feel I owe them and all of the municipal services department a huge apology. Each time I spoke against Project Room Key and our deputies being posted at these hotels, did not once express concern for their health and well-being. For this, I apologize. I'm extremely concerned for their health, their family's health, and all those who may have been exposed to COVID because those hotels have been allowed to profit while exposing others to this deadly pandemic. Our deputies and city employees have been put in harm's way. Did any of you voice concern for their well-being? Was our presence really necessary at the hotels? We have been told that there has not been any problems. For the last 2 months, my neighborhood has been bombarded with illegal fireworks. Having called the sheriff's department and being told that it's that time of year, I felt completely abandoned. Later, I was told by a friend that the sheriff's department explained it would be up to the officer whether or not they cited anyone. What is this? What will it take for the sheriff's department to act on illegal fireworks in the city before, during, and after the 4th of July? On the 4th of July, it was quite obvious that we are going backwards with enforcement. My street was smoky and disgusting. All around us, it was raining hell. Calling the sheriff's department seemed to be a waste. They were so overwhelmed with calls. If you got through, they hung up just about as fast as they answered. It's really sad that during the pandemic, the city choose to continue fireworks sales. When I complain to this council, I expect better than the idiot treatment of it's bad in all cities. I want to explain to you, I live in this city. I'm complaining about this city. I want something done in this city. I don't give a hoot about other cities. I live in this city. To those on the Nextdoor app, instead of complaining to one another, get off your butt and come to a meeting. Contact your city council members. Stop wasting everyone's time and call the sheriff's department and lodge a complaint. That ends oral communication.
Okay, thank you for that oral communications, Mr. Assistant City Clerk. Let's have some comments from the council, if any. Let's start with, I'm looking at my memory here. Let's start with Osborne.
Thanks, Robert. Yeah, well, you can't argue with the statements because it was the worst I'd ever seen it. And if anybody got any sleep, it was only because you had headphones on or earplugs in. It was insane. And then the next day, it was so smoky you couldn't even see down the street. But unless somebody has a better idea, I wish there was a way to do some sort of surveillance and just keep ticketing. It's so frustrating because our hands are tied by the way the laws are written. I wish there was more the state would do to enable the sheriffs and municipal services to do more. That's all.
Right. Okay, thank you, sir. Councilmember Reed.
Oh, I echo that sentiment. I've had enough of the insanity going on as far as the loud things over here as well. But, I've got friends in cities that don't have safe and sane at all, and they still have the same problem, and it was very bad this year all the way around on Lawndale.
Thank you, Councilman Pat Kerr.
Just one thing. I believe, I don't know if it was the captain or was it Randall that said 90% of the fireworks this year were illegal. So let's ban the safe and sane, and let's make Lawndale next year 100% illegal. I understand the concerns, but you cannot blame the legal fireworks for the illegal fireworks. With that, I'll pass it on.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Suarez.
Yeah, just similar comments. And I do, interesting, one of our speakers brought up that maybe there's, during today's time, that there's a little bit of rebellious attitude. So that might have contributed to the war zone that we all experienced this past weekend. But I have no further comments.
Thank you. Speaking of rebellious attitude, you probably saw the report that was on Channel 11. I'm sure other news outlets did a similar report, and they reported on how there's a proliferation of illegal fireworks this year, not just in Lawndale, but LA County in general as a whole. And the focus of the news report was on the city of LA, which, by the way, it's illegal to have fireworks in the city of LA, including safe and sane fireworks. And I believe that's also the case in the city of Culver City, although I can't verify that. But the two cities that were the subject of the news report were LA and Culver City. And the news report basically said that, this year there is a marked increase over LA County for illegal fireworks before, during, and in some cases, if you live in LA, even after. And they contribute that to, the Mayor Pro Tem was kind of alluded to, that several factors. People who have been, pinned up in their homes for, however long since the pandemic. Some people have probably more residual income than they normally probably would, because they save all that money from not going to sports games, sporting activities or what have you. And then so it's an outlet, and people are frustrated, and not to say why, people should be acting and behaving badly, but these are contributing factors. And I have a case in point that the day before the 4th of July, on one of the neighboring blocks, there was fireworks going off on one of the neighboring blocks. And it had been going off for like the last couple of days. So finally, this was like, this person had his own show, his or her own show. And so I actually walked around there to see what the heck was going on, only to find that the person who was discharging the fireworks was being confronted by about 10 of his or her neighbors trying to compel this person to stop it with the fireworks. And this person was upset at something. We don't know what he was upset about, whether it was just the fireworks in general or what. But he was getting out his frustration by discharging all these fireworks. Most of them was illegal. Some of them were safe and sane, but most of them was illegal. So that's a case in point, Mayor Pro Tem, that people do have a lot of frustration, and we just felt it. And it wasn't just the city of Lawndale. The sheriffs did the best that they could. I've called a few times. When I say a few times that day, the 4th of July, and of course, some times leading up to that. And I actually have seen them come out. Obviously, if you do the numbers like the sheriff captain said, if you only take 2%, that's clearly 200 people. And so that makes it difficult for the sheriff's department. That's why I was urging the neighbors, the more you put pressure on your neighbors. And by the way, this guy actually stopped doing fireworks after that incident. He didn't even do it the day, the 4th of July. So that's an example of how, if the neighbors get involved, they can help the sheriff's department abate these types of fireworks, fireworks. So anyway, I don't want to go all day on that, but and I want to thank also the two writers for hold on, we got an alarm going off here. Two writers for writing in today on oral communication. Okay. With that, we'll move the agenda from oral communication to and comments from the council to the consent calendar. There is 7 items on the consent calendar. What is the pleasure of this body concerning?
Mayor, this is Councilman Kearney. I have 2 questions on the consent calendar.
Yes,
Number two and number 5. The first one is for, I guess, Kahono. Are you on? Kahono, are you on?
Okay,
yes, sir.
Yes,
good.
Number 2,
Yes,
yes.
sir. I'm sorry.
Phase 2 of Inglewood Avenue, or phase 1. Are they going to complete the asphalt where they left off 2 blocks before Marine, last part, the first part? Or are we going to go phase 1 from Marine to Manhattan Beach and leave that part that's unpaved? By the high school?
Council member, the pavement for phase 1 will continue from Marine to go all the way to Manhattan Beach.
I understand that, but is it on the north side or the south side of Marine?
Both sides. What we are doing is we have discussion with the city of Redondo Beach, and part of the project, we are negotiating with them where they are going to do some improvement at the intersection of Inglewood and Manhattan Beach for the traffic signal and for the widening of the left turn lane on the city of Lawndale side. They are willing to do the design. They are going to do the construction as well. And in exchange, we are going to do the pavement on their side from Marine all the way to Manhattan Beach.
Okay, that's great. But my question is, the part on the north side of Marine that wasn't paved because Redondo Beach don't want to pay for it, are we going to do that too?
On the phase 1, we paved all the way up to Marine, right? From Rosecrans to Marine. That's the phase 3. I'm sorry. Phase 3, we paved all the way from Rosecrans to Marine, and now the remaining from Marine, I would say approximately about 200 feet south of Marine, that continue all the way to 152nd and go all the way to the freeway side and all the way to Manhattan Beach.
Okay, a few council meetings ago, you brought forward, said it was, the first phase was done, but you didn't pave a portion of Inglewood Avenue north of Marine because Redondo Beach didn't want to pay for it. You said it was still unpaved. Is it paved now?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And my second question is for Sean Moore.
Yes, Councilman Kearney.
On the number 5, are we looking over this firm's shoulder to learn how to do all this labor compliance? And pretty soon we can do it ourselves without going contracting out.
The labor compliance is something they specialize in as part of the RFP.
Okay.
I know they work mostly with Public Works on the labor compliance.
Okay.
But yeah, that's something they work directly with Kahono's group on that for the roadway. But this firm, they've been very helpful. They've helped us get additional COVID money. We got another $180,000, plus they're working on another permanent housing allocation they brought to our attention that we're entitled to. It's over 150-something plus thousand. So they definitely been earning their weight in gold with us.
Okay, thank you. That's it, Mayor.
All righty, thank you for that. Are there any other comments for the consent calendar? Okay, seeing what is it? I'm sorry?
I was going to say, if there's no further questions, Mr. Mayor, there's Councilman Reed. I will move to approve.
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman Kearney. I will second it.
Okay, thank you. So it's been moved by Reed that we approve the consent calendar and seconded by Councilman Pat Kearney. Are there any discussion on the consent calendar? And none, would the city clerk please give the vote, please?
On the consent calendar, Mayor Pro Tem Suarez,
Yes.
Councilmember Osborne,
Yes.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Kearney,
Yes.
Mayor Paul Miles.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Let's move to item 8, an update on the use of the Best Western Hotel, etc.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and distinguished members of the City Council. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight to update you on Project Room Key. I hope you can all hear me okay. This is Michael Reyes, Director of Municipal Services. As you know, Project Room Key was begun over 3 months ago after Governor Newsom launched his program to house asymptomatic homeless individuals most susceptible to the COVID-19 virus. During this time, 2 hotels in the city of Lawndale have been contracted by the city and converted to Project Room Key hotels. This report is intended as an update of both Project Room Key hotels and their operations in Lawndale. Since opening as a Project Room Key property, the Best Western has operated at near full capacity with currently 92 rooms occupied and 105 occupants. The hotel continues to be staffed by 2 medical personnel for 12 hours each day and has 2 security guards assigned to the property 24 hours a day. LASA and PATH also have staff on site to provide case management services to all homeless guests with the ultimate goal of finding them long-term housing. The Baymont Inn is operating at similar levels as the Best Western, with 101 of its rooms occupied with 117 homeless guests. Security and first-to-serve staff are on site 24 hours a day for the duration of this operation, and medical staff will be on hand along with case managers who will be active participants in the day-to-day operations at the hotel. The Director of Municipal Services for the City of Lawndale has been assigned to act as liaison with all hotel, PATH, and LASA staff for the duration of this project on all things relative to Project Room Key. To date, there have been no significant incidents of criminal behavior or suspicious activity which would be cause for alarm. Staff provided PATH with a list of known homeless Lawndale residents who met the criteria for admission in the hotel, and 24 rooms were allocated for homeless from the streets of Lawndale. Community members have raised concerns about public safety and want to know what steps the city has taken to limit the presence of Project Room Key in Lawndale. Staff has worked hard to make residents aware that this project was begun solely by the County of Los Angeles, and arrangements were made between the county and hotel operators independent of the City of Lawndale. City Council and staff were not included in the discussions prior to the beginning of operations of Project Room Key hotels, and no consultation by the city was sought from the county prior to opening. A number of options have been considered by the City of Lawndale to block the operating of this project, including administrative measures such as the revocation of the hotel use permit and legal action such as taking the properties to court for violation of Lawndale City Code. Both of these options were chosen to be untenable as the city's attorney office advised that legal action has been taken by other cities such as Norwalk and Bell Gardens, and each of these cities lost in court to the county. The city attorney further advised that the administrative process would not work to revoke use permits as the governor's emergency declaration would circumvent the city's use permit standards. The city does, however, continue to discuss options to halt operations at both Project Room Key hotels, and the City Council is still discussing legal options to challenge the County of Los Angeles. Additionally, city staff continue to work with the LASD to ensure the safety and well-being of Lawndale residents and to make sure that no problems associated with Project Room Key hotels spill onto Lawndale streets. The City of Lawndale staff has informed hotel management that the city expects the hotel to collect and pay transient occupancy tax as their rooms and rent are rented and in use. Staff will continue to provide City Council Project Room Key updates at all City Council meetings for the duration of Project Room Key. Estimated annual funding requirements are unknown at this time, although staff and sheriff's deputy are monitoring the hotel and resulting in a reduction in time for other duties. Staff recommends that the City Council receive and file this report and provide direction to staff as appropriate. And I can take any questions if there are any.
Okay, let's ask the city clerk. Do we have a comment for item 8?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have one public comment for item 8. I'll go ahead and read it verbatim. It's Pam London, Lawndale resident. Lawndale streets, parking lots, bus stops, etc. are seeing a major uptick in the homeless individuals. What has caused all of these people to come to Lawndale? Are these people who started out at the Best Western and did not follow the rules? Were these people kicked out onto our streets? Is this how the county plans to leave Lawndale? Is this how the county treats the homeless when they pretend to care about? When COVID is no longer the same threat, is this what we can expect? Several hundred people dumped in our street with nowhere to go. Project Room Key has been shoved down the city's throats without information regarding the future of the people or the hotels being occupied. At the previous council meeting, city manager said he and other city managers planned a meeting to discuss Project Room Key's future. Has this meeting taken place? Do we have any new answers? Why is municipal services tasked with going to the no-tells twice a day? What is the purpose? Can this be done over the phone? Should the city employees' health not be a consideration? Since the county has previously refused to share information, what is the purpose of a Lawndale employee going to these locations? Did any of you read the story in the Daily Breeze? The title was Mission Creep and Project Room Key. I've asked repeatedly whether or not the government intends to purchase no-tells in Lawndale. Do you have answers yet? Are these no-tells destined to become Project Home Key? This will majorly affect Lawndale's coffers. The tax money will be lost. Other businesses will leave because no one will want that next door to them. It's time for answers. I and others do not want to continue to hear that the county is being closed-lipped. If news outlets are able to get information, why can't you? That ends public comment for that item.
Can you read that last part again? If somebody, something, information, why can't you?
If news outlets are able to get information, why can't you?
Okay, thank you. Okay. And remind me, after this item, we'll go back to item 5. I think there might have been a comment on item 5 that I overlooked, if that's the case. But let's finish with this item first. Okay, so that's item 8, the report. Is there any questions of the staff report on item 8 or any comments?
Mayor, this is Councilman Kearney.
All right, sir.
Yes.
Michael, I love your reading, but you don't have to read your whole agenda item verbatim. You can shortcut it. The whole council's read your agenda item, so you can shortcut it.
Yeah, yes, sir. No, I appreciate that, and I wasn't sure what vital items you needed, but I will certainly tone it down for the next one.
My question is, since most of the services all home, self-quarantine, who's paying the visits to Best Western and Baymont?
Per Ms. London's comments, we are doing it over the phone now because of specifically the threat to staff from the proximity to potentially ill people. We prior to being in quarantine, we were kind of restricting our presence there. Initially, we were going to the hotel because we wanted to see the process and how operations were working. Now that things are up and running and kind of it's sort of status quo, we can do the rest of it over the phone.
Okay.
And conversations are happening now over the phone on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So just to follow up, one of the questions was pertaining to whether or not some of the folks that we see on Lawndale streets that we had not seen prior to the implementation of Project Room Key were people who were kicked out or otherwise, and I'm paraphrasing, kicked out or otherwise not allowed into the program. Can you speak to whether or not the people we see on the street that seem to be new to Lawndale, are they affiliated or have been ever affiliated with Project Room Key? Or seem to be, I should say.
Sure. I was going to say, I in talking and still doing the daily outreach with the homeless that we are encountering on the street, several of them were unaware of Project Room Key, but I imagine they were being encouraged to come into Lawndale by our neighboring cities. I can't, verify that for sure. I did ask them some of them directly though. How did you hear about Lawndale? What made you come here? There are a lot of homeless that we did not encounter 3 or 4 months ago before all this began, before the pandemic started. My staff has been doing outreach since the beginning of this year, the calendar year, but there are a lot of new homeless that I'm not sure if they heard about Project Room Key and came into our community or were just informed to come into our community, but there are quite a few that we don't recognize from our earlier efforts. And it does seem like we have about the same amount of homeless now as we did 4 months ago on our streets, in addition to the homeless that are in our hotels.
Okay, thank you. And from my observation, it seems like some of the new homeless has been a turnover, meaning that I've seen people that have moved into the city, I guess, after Project Room Key, and for some reason they're no longer in the city, which obviously is a good thing if you're reducing, the homeless population. But of course, they're being substituted by, another homeless person or what have you. Because I can think of like two people off the top of my head that I don't see in Lawndale, and I'm just curious as to. I mean, you wouldn't know this, but I'm just curious as to where did those people come from, and then where did they go? Because,
yeah, we were aware of several homeless people that came into the city and then disappeared again. I don't know if they went back to the cities that they were in prior. Some of them did go into Project Room Key. I know for a fact that some people that did drift into the community, we helped to get them off the street, and they did go into the Baymont Inn. I can think of 2 or 3 specifically. And some people did leave the city. But yeah, I couldn't say where they went. But there are a lot of new homeless for sure.
Okay. Thank you for the report. Are there any further questions of the report? Okay. Seeing none, thank you, sir. Let's move to item number 9, concerning the South Bay Fiber Network. Let's have the staff report.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, for item number 8, was it just general consensus? Receive and file.
Okay, let's proceed. Yes, sir. Did we have any comments on item number 5 that are omitted?
No, it was item 15, Mr. Mayor.
Item 15. Okay, when we get there. Okay, great. Thank you.
But to close out number 8, if you do want to receive and file it, it takes a motion, but you don't have to officially receive and file it.
This is Councilman Kearney. I'll make a motion to receive and file item number 8.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Kearney that we receive and file item number 8. Is there a second?
This is Councilman Reed. I'll second.
Councilman Reed has seconded the motion. I'm going to ask the assistant city clerk to give the roll call on the motion.
For item number 8, Mayor Pro Tem Suarez.
Yes.
Councilmember Osborne. Yes. Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Councilmember Kearney.
Yes.
Mayor Pullen Miles.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
All righty, thank you. Okay, item number 9 on South Bay Fiber Network.
Okay. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. The city is currently in a service order agreement with Spectrum for 5 years, which expires October 24th, 2024. The monthly fee for that is $14.75. The current services provided is a dedicated internet access connection with a speed of 100 megabytes per second, and a point-to-point connection between Public Works Yard and City Hall at a speed of 100 megabytes per second. Prior to this Spectrum service order in 2019, staff met with the South Bay City's Council of Governments to discuss the city's participation in the South Bay Fiber Network Ring, which is meant to serve all South Bay cities with high-speed internet access using the fiber technology. Although at the time there was an intention to participate with the fiber network, due to an unforeseen potential financial obligation in connecting to the fiber network, the city put its participation on hold. Staff has recently been in discussions with the South Bay COG and has reevaluated the project and the city's potential participation in the project. I'll now turn it over to Interim Public Works Director Kahono Boyd to give a brief overview of the South Bay Fiber Network and its potential benefits to the city.
Thank you, Matt and Mr. Mayor and City Council members. The letter of intent forwarded to you tonight is actually a non-binding, and also this is not an agreement either. We don't have any agreement at this point. And based on the discussion with the South Bay Council of Government, the cost for the installation of the dedicated line from the point of connection of the South Bay fiber optic network ring to go to City Hall is approximately $50,000 to $65,000. And the cost, it will be absorbed by the South Bay Council of Government Measure M funding. If we don't submit the letter of intent right now and participate with the South Bay fiber optic network, the cost of the installation for the dedicated fiber optic line in the future it will have to be paid by the city if the city elected to connect to their line. The rate that is shown on the letter of intent is about $1,900 per month, and that will cover the internet service as well as the point-to-point connections between the City Hall and Public Works Building. And based on the conversation I have with the South Bay COG staff, this cost can be negotiated at the time of the city wants to have a service from them, which is approximately 5 years from now. And some of the benefits for the connection with the South Bay fiber optic network, the fiber optic lines that they install at this point are all new fiber optic line with highest strength. And the highest strength fiber optic will deliver a higher speed of internet connections, which is right now they propose to have 1 gigabyte per second, which is 10 times of what we have currently with Spectrum. And with the faster service, we have a more secure internet connections, which eventually will protect the city network system. And with this one here, the city in the future will have the ability to have direct fiber optic connections with other cities, as well as county facility, which will have the city in the future. And staff recommend that the City Council authorize the city manager to submit the letter of intent to South Bay Council of Government for the participating of the South Bay fiber optic network. And with that, I conclude the staff report and will be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Mayor, are you there?
Yes, I was. I just gave this long dissertation.
Okay.
I'll do it again. I'll put myself on mute for a second. Thank you for that report. Are there any questions of the report?
Mayor, this is Councilman Kearney. I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and the report, it says connection fee would be $50,000. Now Cohono saying between $50,000 and $65,000. And my understanding, the South Bay COG needs us to be on board to get the ring complete. I might be wrong at that, but I was told by reliable sources that's what they keep bugging us about because they cannot complete the ring.
Yeah.
And
I
have the floor. Thank you. And I understand, the 10 times the bandwidth, gigabytes, but if the city takes a dump, everything goes 100 to 1,000. And does this benefit the city of Lawndale or just the residents or just the city we're paying $50,000 for fiber optic to go from City Hall to Public Works? And if we do decide to sign up with our intent letter, I want in the intent letter that we get the same rate we're getting right now with Spectrum 5 years from now, not wait 5 years and then negotiate. Because we're paying now what they want us to pay. It's $400 a month more than what we're paying right now to Spectrum, or $4,800 a year. So I have some concerns and issues. If we can get them to lock down the rate we're paying right now for Spectrum in 5 years, that'd be great. But they need us.
Yep.
We need them. And I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
Okay. Connor, you want to respond to that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yes, Mr. Mayor. The cost that was listed on the staff report is $50,000. And upon the conversation I have with the South Bay Council of Government staff, the cost is ranged between $50,000 and $65,000. And the contract has not been signed up yet. But as soon as the city sent the letter of intent to South Bay COG, they will finalize the contract with the contractors. That's one. Secondly, the ring itself has been completed. The only one that is not completed is basically the point of connection from the ring all the way to City Hall. And that fiber optic has not been done yet as we speak. With this one here, the minute we sign or we send the letter of intent to the South Bay COG, that's when the contractor would be authorized to construct the fiber optic line from the point of connections of the ring to go to City Hall. The next question that you have is regarding the cost of $1,900. The cost of $1,900 is providing the 1 gigabytes per second for both the internet as well as the point-to-point connections between two buildings. If we use Spectrum right now and getting a 1 gigabyte per second service, the cost will be approximately $2,900. That's what we have, and that's what the proposal I received from Spectrum comparing apple to apple. The fact that we use only 100 megabytes, that's why our cost right now is cheaper, only $1,475. However, if the city elected to go with a high speed with 1 gigabyte per second, the actual cost to Spectrum is $2,900. So in a way, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
In a way, the cost, if we compare it apple to apple, the cost to go connecting to the South Bay fiber optic network will be cheaper in the long run. But again, because we cannot sever the contract with Spectrum right now, because we have a contract for 5 years, we have to wait until Spectrum's contract is expired. That's the time when we can connect to the South Bay fiber optic network. And they are willing to do this because a lot of the cities in the South Bay area, they have the same situation what the Lawndale does. Basically, they have a letter of intent sent to them at the time of the expiration of their service with a different carrier. That's the time when they are going to connect to the South Bay fiber optic network system. And again, there are a lot of benefits for having the South Bay fiber optic networks as well. In the future, of course, when we have a system that is in place already, we can have for example, a traffic interconnect on Hawthorne, on Prairie, on Inglewood. Those interconnects can be monitored from City Hall using the fiber optic system that they already have established right now. So there's a potential good stuff that's happening for the city in the near future.
I understand that. But this letter of intent, I still like to see to make sure that we just pay a one-time fee between $50,000 and $65,000. There's no 5 years from now we have this hidden cost. I wanted someone this letter of intent, and then we negotiate that we get the same rate now on Spectrum in 5 years that we get with this new South Bay fiber B, whatever fiber up. And I don't want to see us paying $1,900 a month in 5 years. Like I said,
yes.
We negotiate. We're the last ones. We are the leader. We're not a follower like the rest of the cities.
Yes, Councilmember Kearney.
Go ahead, Colin.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. The cost that is going to cost about $50,000 to $65,000. Those are being absorbed by the South Bay COG Measure M funding. So we are not paying anything at all, basically, as long as we can submit the letter of intent to the South Bay Council of Government. And also the $1,900, there's basically a number that as they calculated at this point, but I think at the end of the term, of that 5-year term, we can negotiate with the South Bay COG.
Well, Kahona, this is Councilman Reed. We'll follow up to that question. You did answer one of my questions about the COG taking the full installation cost. I'm curious as to what's the difference in the original commitment letter, which was $900 a month, to raise it to $1,900 a month from this. And secondarily to that, would this high speed allow us to have developers be able to provide us information on planning electronically where we can't today? Or what other benefits is this going to grant the city as far as business goes? If it's just communication between the two buildings, that is one thing. If it is a matter of allowing us to take in better data transmission for public works and for planning to be able to receive digital plan communications, that's another.
Thank you, Councilmember Reed. The first question is that the $1,900 it will pay for the 1 gigabyte of service, and that will allow us with a higher speed, which can be in fact increase the ability for the developer to submit plans to the city and has more capacity, a lot faster and a lot safer, and for the internet service.
And sorry, just to jump in there, Kahona, this is Matt, Assistant City Clerk. The difference between the two letters of intent is the initial one was just for connection between the Public Works Yard and City Hall. So to share our internet access as well as our phone system and servers with the Public Works Yard. The new letter of intent includes direct internet access. So it would be $900 for the point-to-point connection between Public Works and City Hall, and dedicated internet access would be the $1,000. And for your second question, I'll let Kahona get into the benefits that high-speed internet has for capital improvement projects.
Yes, thank you. The future, again, we are trying to apply grants through Measure R, through South Bay Council of Government as well, and LA Metro. And the project itself is going to interconnect all of the traffic signals along Hawthorne Boulevard from Rosecrans all the way to Artesia. When we do that, we will interconnect all of the signals using fiber optic line. And when we do that, we can connect that fiber optic line to the South Bay Ring, South Bay Fiber Optic Network Ring. And eventually, once we have to do that, we should be able to connect all of this line to City Hall, and we can monitor all the traffic signals through what they call it, the Traffic Management Center. So from the City Hall, we can monitor everything what's going on. And that's the beauty of the fiber optic line, because we can control that. And if something goes wrong and things like that, we can easily go look at the computer, and we have full access to find out exactly what's wrong with that signal. So somebody call in, for example, the signal on one Lawndale Way or in any location, and we can look it up, and then we can see what's going on, and then we can change those remotely without going to the site. And that's another benefits of it.
Okay, so maybe that allows us to deal with some synchronization of the traffic signals through and be able to run it. Is that something that we'll be able to do proactively rather than reactively? Like today, if a signal is acting up, it takes someone making a phone call and then a call going to the county, and then it takes a day or two to get it done. So would that benefit us to be able to flip and reboot that immediately, or what's the expectation? And then I still have the piece of the developers. Would that allow us to have high-speed data transfer for planning, etc.?
Councilmember Reed, yes. The answer is yes to both of them. The first one, we can control everything through the Traffic Management Center in the City Hall or any public works. So the minute the call comes in, we can evaluate what's wrong with it. Because we have communication directly from the traffic controller to go to the Traffic Management Center in the City Hall or public works. That's the first one. So if we find out that they have some kind of a power shortage, for example, then we can switch directly from the power to the battery backup system. That way, the traffic signal will be continuously operating by monitoring it from the City Hall or public works. And to answer the second question, with the higher speed, it will be a lot more secure for anybody to send any electronic file to go to the city. And that will protect the city's network as well.
Okay. For protection, I'll reserve my comment, but for the high speed, that's one thing. I do still have the same concern. The price, I believe, is much higher than we want to commit to, so that is something that definitely would need to be locked down to a lower rate in one fashion or another.
And Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, this is Kevin Chun, City Manager. Just wanted to respond to the question or comment from Councilmember Reed and from Councilmember Kearney regarding signing the letter of intent and the $1,900 cost through the COG for the South Bay Fiber Network. By signing the letter of intent, that does not lock the city into the $1,900 for the service. If 5 years from now, once Spectrum, our contract with Spectrum is over, at that point, the city can determine whether or not it would like to connect to the South Bay Fiber Network, and if it would like to pay for that cost of $1,900. If the city does not believe that that is an economical number for the city, then the city does not have to connect with the South Bay Fiber Network. It can just not be a part of it at all. And at that point, if the city does not like the $1,900 monthly fee, I'll just use that as an example, we could negotiate that number to a different number to our benefit. If that can be done, well, then that would be good for the city. If that cannot be done, then again, the city does not have to enter into an agreement and accept the service. So we aren't locked down by entering into this letter of intent.
Just a couple of observations on that point. Just a simple question I want to pose to the city manager and maybe the Director of Public Works. So what happens to the project should we opt not to sign this letter of intent? I know what happens if we opt to participate at a later date. Understand that, but what happens to the project if we, in the funding source, if we decided not to sign the letter of intent?
Mr. Mayor, this is Kevin Chen again, and Kahono can correct me if I'm incorrect here. But if the city chooses not to participate in the South Bay Fiber Network, then the city doesn't have to. We can continue to receive our service through Spectrum or any other provider if that's what we choose to do. If we do not, the drawback is if we do not elect to participate, then we lose out on that benefit of the preliminary construction of the connection directly into City Hall. And, you know, so whether it be 5 years from now or 10 years from now, at some point in time in the future, if the city were to decide to connect to the South Bay Fiber Network, at that point, the city would then be responsible for that construction cost. So by not signing this letter of intent now, we'd be losing out on that future ability to save on that construction cost.
So will the South Bay COG be able to move forward with the project if we don't become a party to it or have a letter of intent?
Yes, they will be able to move forward, and with us not being a part of it.
Mr. Mayor, this is Kahono again. Just to add on that one over there, the South Bay fiber optic network ring has been completed. The only one that's not the only one that's not completed basically is only again the service that will go to City Hall.
Okay. Now going back to that the synchronization project on Hawthorne Boulevard. my understanding is that we can sync those lights and able to monitor the lights without being a part of this project. Is that the case, or do we need to be a part of this project in order to do that sync project that will allow us to monitor and to respond to the lights once they're synced?
The answer to that one is basically with the fiber optic ring that they have right now, it will give us a better connectivity and also give us the opportunity to interconnect all of the city's signal network. Right now, the county is doing also the synchronization of the signal located on Prairie. I believe the project that they are doing right now is only from Redondo Beach on the way to Manhattan Beach at this point. And in the future, I'm sure they will continue to interconnect all of the signals. Once they have it, everything is interconnected, there's a time when the city can put everything under the traffic management center, and that can be monitored through in the city hall or in the public works department building.
Okay, but it sounds like we have to be a part of this the South Bay fiber program to do that, right?
Mr. Mayor, this is Kevin again. Just to answer your question maybe another way, I think we probably could do capital projects like the Hawthorne synchronization project if we had a connection through another provider. However, as Kahono mentioned earlier, that cost through another provider would be substantially higher than through this connection, this potential connection through the South Bay Fiber Network.
Okay, got it. Okay, that's one question. You answered the other one about the difference in the monthly fee from 900 to 19. You answered that. Would anyone else have any questions?
Mayor, this Councilman again.
Yes, sir.
I'm okay with the letter, but I think we should put in there, we'll pay a monthly cost to be negotiated. I don't like the $1,900 put in there. I just have a bad feeling about that with the COG. So if we could put in there a cost to be negotiated, that'd be fine with me.
Yeah, at a rate that would be comparable or below than what we would have received from Spectrum.
Mr. Mayor.
I'll be okay with that.
Mr. Mayor, this is Kevin Chen again. I'll just read the sentence that deals with the monthly cost that's in the draft letter of intent, and okay. You and the City Council can let me know if this suffices. If the city decides to connect to the SBFN at the conclusion of the city's contract with Spectrum, the city will pay the monthly cost of up to $1,900 per month for service at City Hall and Public Works Department building, or the cost can be negotiated at the time the city decides to connect to the SBFN. So I'm not sure if that addresses Councilmember Kearney's concerns, but we do have language in there regarding being able to negotiate that cost.
Well, yeah, but if we fail to negotiate it, the cost that can be imposed would be the $1,900 unless we negotiate something to the contrary. Is what they're saying.
Hi, Mayor. This is Tiffany Israel. But the letter does say that we don't have to join. It says it's at our option. So if we don't like the number,
right. I get the point that we don't have to join.
Right.
But it also will show here if we would like to join, we can negotiate. We can negotiate the price. I get that. If we fail to reach negotiation, we can, that's lower than $1,900. Then we would either have to pay the $1,900 or not join.
Yeah, this is Councilman Reed, Mr. Mayor. The way the city reads, it's basically, though this is non-binding, says we agree to pay that $1,900, and our concern is that is higher than what we want. So I don't know if we can strike that 1,900 and put in here that we would negotiate the cost at the time of review.
Thank you.
We can certainly do that, Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Reed.
My opinion. Yeah, that sounds good, but we would want it to not to exceed the 1,900 because with if we remove the 1,900, then we can negotiate and it could potentially exceed the 1,900. Obviously, we don't have to accept it, but it could potentially exceed it. But with this, it could be up to 1,900.
Yeah, but as it reads, right. It's just as it reads now. It says we will pay the monthly cost of up to 1,900, and you know, that still is a handshake agreement that we're going to say, yeah, we'll pay you 1,900.
Yeah, I understand that it's you know, it's not binding, but you have to be, you know, good faith.
This is Mayor Pro Tem Flores. I kind of agree with Robert, who's to say that in 5 years Spectrum doesn't increase their rate and the market value depending on how things go there. So I think that if we add not to exceed and then also keep in there, I mean, it's not binding, so I don't think it hurts. But I think if we cap it at least we know what to expect, and then we can make that determination at a later time.
That's right. Okay. Osborne, you was adding something?
I say I concur with Bernadette's statement.
Oh, okay.
You got it right.
Okay.
Let's see if we can make a change that says something to the city. We'll negotiate the expense not to exceed 1,900 at the time of consideration.
Yes.
Okay, I'm good with that.
I like it.
I don't want us to go out saying we will pay that.
Up to $1,900, yes.
No. We want to pay below. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay. So, all right. So, what is the pleasure of the body concerning this item?
Bernadette makes a
9.
motion. Bernadette, if you make a motion on the way you stated it, I'll second it.
I'll make the motion with the addition of not to exceed 1,900, and we are still able to negotiate, yada yada.
Yeah, and I will second that.
Okay, so the motion's been made by Suarez and seconded by Osborne with the said amendment. We're in discussion on the motion. Okay. Mr. Assistant City Clerk.
Item 9, Mayor Pro Tem Suarez.
Yes.
Councilmember Osborne.
Yes.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Councilmember Kearney.
Yes.
Mayor Pullen Miles.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
All right, thank you, sir. Item 10, amendments to the council policy regarding parkway design. Let's have a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. And this is Kahono. On February 20th, 2018, the City Council adopted the Parkway Design Policy Guideline number 102-18. And some of the concern about the policy from the residents are the requirement of the residents to obtain the encroachment permit, and also the requirement of the licensed contractor to do the work within the parkway area. And on October 21st, 2019, the City Council revisited the parkway design policy and recommend staff to review and revise the parkway design policy. As a result, staff revised the parkway design policy, and the new policy will not require the residents to hire any licensed contractor to do any landscape work within the parkway. However, they still have to pull the permit, the encroachment permit from the Public Works. And those changes are shown on the policy on page 4. And also, the old policy indicated that the landscaping planted within the parkway policy can grow up to 6 inches. During the discussion of the City Council on October 21st, the City Council suggested that the parkway landscaping planted within the parkway can grow up to 12 inches. And that is also shown on the new revised policy. And staff recommend that the City Council adopt resolution number 2007-038 and approve the revised parkway design policy number 102-18. With that, I conclude my staff report and will be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that report. Are there any questions of the report? Okay. What is the pleasure of this body concerning item number 10?
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman Reed.
Councilman Reed.
I'd make a motion to go with staff recommendation for approval of CC 2007-038.
All right, thank you.
And revised policy 102-18.
Mayor, this is Councilman Curdy.
Alrighty.
Second it.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Reed, seconded by Ernie. Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt the resolution? And none. Will the Assistant City Clerk give the vote?
For item number 10, Mayor Pro Tem Suarez,
Yes.
Councilmember Osborne,
Yes.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Kearney,
Yes.
Mayor Pullen Miles.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, sir. Item number 11 is award of construction contract to DBX. Let's have a staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. The staff report before you is to award the construction contract to DBX Inc. of Temecula in the amount of $907,021 for the upgrade and construction of traffic signal at the 2 locations. The first location is the construction of new traffic signal at the intersection of Marine and Osage. This traffic signal is replacing of the existing flashing beacon at the intersection. With the new traffic signal, it will help the student to cross the street safely. And the second location is an upgrade of the existing traffic signal at the intersection of Manhattan Beach and Hawthorne Boulevard. Currently, the east and westbound of Manhattan Beach Boulevard don't have any dedicated left turn traffic signal. Therefore, the vehicles are being queued in the middle of the intersections prior to making a left turn eastbound or westbound. And this traffic movement is confusing to some of the drivers, actually. And the new traffic signal, it will upgrade with the changing of the traffic signal head, the street name sign, the poles, as well as dedicated left turn signal on the east and westbound of Manhattan Beach Boulevard. And this will have a better and safe traffic movement. After the upgrade of the traffic signal, there will be no more vehicles waiting in the middle of the intersection. The project was completed way back in 2019, and it was advertised on March 4th, 2020, and we received 6 bids, and DBX Inc. of Temecula is the lowest responsible bidder in the amount of $1,082,021. Due to the shortage of funding, I did some value engineering and modified the plans and reduced the scope of work. And then I negotiated the project with the contractor, and they have agreed to reduce their bid by $175,000. And the reduction of the scope of the work are really basically as a cosmetics. For example, we are going to remove less of the existing curb. We are going to remove less sidewalks, remove less asphalt, less excavations and everything else. However, the main traffic signal upgrade is the most important of the project. And this upgrade here will need the meet for safety of the whole intersection. If this project is approved, if the contract is approved tonight, the city will issue the notice of award to the contractors so they can start ordering all the signal equipment, the signal head, and everything else. Currently, the lead time to order those equipments is about 14 weeks right now. And it is, if everything goes well, it is anticipated that the project going to be completed by the end of the year. That we have to follow this in order for us to meet the grant funding deadline. This grant is actually started way back in 2017, and we have not done anything until today. That's probably already 3 years already, and we are at the verge of losing the funding. But by doing this, we are going to be able to reprogram the funding and secure the funding for the project. And staff recommend that the City Council approve the award of the contract to DPX Inc. for $907,021, and also authorize staff to have a 10% contingency of $90,702, and also the engineering service assistance in the amount of $10,000 to cover any unforeseen conditions during the constructions. And that, I will conclude my staff report and will be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that report.
This is Jim.
Report.
I have a question. This is Jim. I said this is Jim.
Okay, we get anyone have any questions on the report? There you go, Jim. That's your
yeah. So hold on. I voiced concerns on the project for the Marine and Osage one on the way back because you can see it's like a necessary evil. I know it's a common crossing place for the kids going to Losinger and whatnot. But I'm old enough to remember when there wasn't even a signal at Freeman, so you had a straight shot between Prairie and Hawthorne. It's almost evolving to where we're going to have a traffic signal on every corner. So my question is this: what assurance is there, if any, that new light at Osage can be synced up with the one on Freeman, so people are just not stopping, constantly on their way either east or westbound? Is there any way that you can assure us that we could get that light always staying in sync with the Freeman light?
Thank you so much, Council Member. The project right now does not have any synchronization capability. However, in the future, that's one of those synchronization and interconnect that the city, I would like to be able to apply for grants for that purpose. And if it happens, again, we are going to use the fiber optic to do the interconnect on all the signals. And again, I don't know the timing at this point. However, we can program it in such a way that the timing can be synchronized, I would say, by doing a timing change as soon as we have it constructed. So
but
we
you're
will
saying
try
that
to
might be a few years off?
The synchronization, it will be a few years off. That's correct. But the temporary, it can be scheduled or it can be designed so that we at least the timing for the signal can be adjusted to meet the one on Freeman.
Well, I sure hope basically so, this is going to be just a big headache for not only Lawndale residents but anybody coming through. Just you can have just so many stops. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
would project
be my concern.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Connor.
This project here has been in the book for quite some time, actually.
Oh, I remember when it first came up before you joined us. So I've known about this for a long time. But I just wish it was timed to a point when we can guarantee it being synchronized. I mean, it wasn't that long ago we didn't have all the stop signs on 147th, and people were able to just go, from Hawthorne to Prairie straight shot. But we knew that there was concerns there for the crossing. The same thing with the kids, especially on Avis. So I understand the dangers to the kids trying to cross there. But again, this is going to be a crazy world where you're stopping at every corner the way we're headed.
Yeah, that was my only concern is the synchronization as well in terms of the stops. And I would assume that we've done the necessary study to justify this type of a light.
Well, I believe it was called for because of the safety concerns, and it wasn't that long ago that even where the flashing signal is, that wasn't there. And it was brought to my attention by someone I know who worked in another city's public works department about the placement of the crossing sign. It was placed behind a not a traffic light, a street light. And so that was brought to the attention of Public Works many years ago. And that's when the flashing light was installed, not long after. But I still have concerns on an actual traffic signal there if it just backs up more and more cars up between the stretch.
Yeah, me too.
This is Kahono. This is Kahono. I believe the city did the warrant study prior to the design of the project, and that's why the funding sources was identified specifically for this traffic signal. Because of the warrant study was done, and it was submitted for LA Metro for the funding, and that funding was approved. Right. And that's how we move forward. And again, before I joined the city, this project has been lingering for quite some time. So what I did was I put it all together so that at least the project can be put out and to bid and start constructions. And the fact that we have two projects at one time, it is almost like an economic of scale as well. And the bid came out really good, in my opinion. However, because of the funding itself is the one that really, critical at this point to spend the money before we lose the money.
Yeah, understood.
Okay. Are there any other questions? I just have one comment. The other project, which is the signal light on Hawthorne and Manhattan Beach, I'm excited to see that happening. That's been in the works for years, and it has been a source of frustration on my way to work, in particular. Yeah, you can always tell when someone is new because they are just just totally confused as to whether or not they still have the right to clear the intersection or not. They have the imposing traffic that's going south is confused as to why that car is in their lane, and it's just a bad happening in the morning. So I'm glad that we're finally getting that taken care of. With that, unless there's any other comments, in motion.
Mr. Mayor, this is Kevin Chun. If I might just add one point of clarification for the record. The reduction in the overall construction cost has more to do with a reduction in the quantity of materials versus a reduction in the overall scope of work. So I just wanted to clarify that the scope of work is the same. However, the cost is reduced because of the lowering of quantities of materials. So I just wanted that for the record.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Mr. City Manager. Okay, I'll entertain a motion at this time on item 11.
Mayor, this is Councilman Kearney. I'll make a motion to go with staff recommendation.
Okay, motion's been made by Kearney to adopt staff's recommendation. I'll second it. Seconded by Pullen Miles. Is there any discussion on the motion? And Assistant City Clerk.
Item number 11, Mayor Pro Tem Suarez.
Yes.
Councilmember Osborne.
Reluctant, yes.
Councilmember Reed.
Yes.
Councilmember Kearney.
Yes.
Mayor Pullen Miles.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you, sir. Next item, item 12, is update updating the Lawndale Municipal Code regarding the city engineer's authority. That'll be staff report.
Mr. Mayor, this is Tiffany Israel. I'll be presenting this one.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, under the Subdivision Map Act, a subdivision map must be presented to the City Council whenever someone wants to subdivide their land. Under the Municipal Code, tentative maps are conditionally approved after they're reviewed by the Planning Commissioner. Then once a developer has satisfied all of the conditions on his or her map, the developer gives a final map to the city engineer for review and approval. The city staff determines if a developer has substantially complied with all of conditions on a map, and if so, then state law allows that map to be approved and recorded, making the subdivision official. Under the municipal code, we require the city engineer to first notify the council at a public meeting once a map has been submitted and staff has confirmed that the developer has substantially complied with all of the conditions of approval on the map. And then after that, the city engineer has 10 days to approve or deny of the map. This month plus delay in waiting for a city council meeting and requiring a staff report to be prepared is an extra step that the city added, and it is not required by state law. Developers often convey their frustration by this extra time in that process. As a result, staff is recommending that the municipal code be revised to allow the city engineer to approve a final map as is authorized under state law. Adoption of ordinance 1173-20 would make those changes. Please let me know if you have any questions.
I have one question.
Yes.
So let's say the map goes to the city council. What are the choices of the city council once the maps are presented to the city council? And why is it before the city council?
Well, I think it's before the city council because we used to have a mayor who was involved in construction, and so he wanted that notice. There's nothing in the code right now that has the council do anything. It's usually just a consent calendar item, and it's not usually pulled and commented on. So it's just to give the council notice.
So it's not designed to give the council, I know you said it's designed to give the council notice, but it's not also designed so that the council would be able to approve or object, or they're just simply being notified?
Right, it's just a notice because the standard under the law for approving a final map is whether or not the conditions have been substantially complied with. So the council doesn't have discretion to not authorize a final map if if a developer has substantially complied with the conditions.
Okay, I see. Okay, that was my only question. Are there any additional questions going on? Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to recommend to leave it the way it is for transparency. I know the planning commission sees it and then comes to city council. I believe that's the way it should be for transparency. I understand the city attorney's office, but if we're not breaking the law, we're enhancing the law. Let's leave it the way it is. Why do we want to, I have the floor, thank you. Why do we want to change it and give authority to the public works engineer? We have 3 of them, and I don't think the developers are having a fit about it. I think we should leave it the way it is for transparency and a paper trail that we have, and the planning commission gets to see it first, and then we give it the blessing. Okay, turn it back over to you, Robert.
Mayor, can I just address one thing?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
So to be clear, under state law, the planning commission reviews and approves and conditions the map before anything happens, like when the project's being approved. The map does not go back to the planning commission when it's finalized. It only goes back under this current ordinance to the council for notice.
And that's the way it should be.
Okay.
My opinion. I'm only one of 5.
Yeah. Well, I'll join you in that opinion from the standpoint that, I mean, I don't know how much of a burden that it is. I mean, I can see in some cases that it might be, but seeing that we meet every two weeks, I don't really see it as a burden. At least I have not been told that by any entity in the 15 years or so that I've been around. Also, it gives the council at least the opportunity to know the intricate parts of what is going on in the city. I mean, obviously you wouldn't know that there's been a subdivision and a final map. That would be hard to know. So if these maps are approved, how would I know that as a city, as a mayor or a member of the council, unless it came before me? Obviously, I can go to the planning commission and monitor planning commission meetings like any other citizens, but as being part of the city council, I shouldn't have to do that. This should be able to come before the city council so that I'm notified of these types of significant changes in our city. That's my opinion. Is anyone else have anything they want to add on that?
Mr. Mayor, this is Councilman Reed. You've both said it very well. I agree.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Anyone else before we entertain a motion? Okay, with that being the case, I'll entertain a motion at this time on item. Let me get back to my desk.
Mayor, this is
Mr.
Councilman
Mayor,
Kirk.
to be clear, if you're not going to adopt an ordinance, no action needs to be taken.
Okay, no action needs to be taken on this. Okay, let's see. Okay, so with unanimous consent, we won't take any item on it, which means it stays the same as is. Okay, but thank you for that report. We appreciate that. Let's move to item 8. Our city council, city mayor's report, city manager's report, I should say.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. We don't have any formal reports for tonight. I just wanted to add my thanks to the Sheriff's Department for their difficult work that they have to do over the 4th of July period. It's very difficult work to try to find scofflaws that are igniting illegal fireworks. I know that they do the best that they can, and I just thank them for the work. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay, let's move to items from the mayor and city council meeting members. Let's start with Councilmember Osborne.
Thank you, Robert. Only thing I got, I kind of touched on it the last meeting. I'd like to see, at some point in time, staff, I know it's like beating a dead horse trying to fight this firework problem. But I would like to see something developed by staff with some additional suggestions and ideas on enforcement. Anything that we haven't tried, something that might be presented to us at some future dates, brainstorming, a little bit. Even if it's something that seems minor at the time, who knows, it may be a help. But, all we seem to try is increase the fines, increase the policing. But I'd love to see if they can just present the council with some additional thoughts and ideas. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you, sir. Councilman Reed.
Yes, sir. No, I haven't had any meetings in between. Contract cities canceled the last meeting for issues, so we'll pass it on. Wish everyone a great week.
All right. Councilmember Pat Kearney.
I just attended one event with yourself, Robert, Mike Estes, and myself. We gave away these senior care packages from, what's the name of that church over there? From the church in the city.
Restoration.
There you go. That's
it.
That's it. Thank you.
That's it? Okay, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Suarez.
I have nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. I want, let's see, did I attend anything? Like I attended, I'm not sure if it was, I attended it. Right. Okay, with that, I also want to add in with Councilmember Osborne about the staff recommendations. And maybe perhaps we can look at, or ask, I should say, the those service organizations who have fireworks booths. Maybe they have some ideas or what have you, and that they're right in the thick of it, selling the safe and sane fireworks. So maybe they can weigh in on some suggestions or what have you. I do think it is time to have a real discussion about whether or not we should move forward with allowing fireworks, including the safe and sane. Now, I do, believe that it abolishing safe and sane fireworks will not 100%, reduce or eliminate, I should say, the illegal fireworks, because we know that's not the case in the city of Los Angeles. However, there is a correlation, and I'm not really sure what the correlation would be if we abolish the safe and sane fireworks in terms of how much reduction in illegal fireworks will result from that move. But I think it's about time that we have the discussion and so we can consciously move ahead if we decide to continue having fireworks rather than just having it just because, a few years ago, we put out an advisory measure that authorized it. We at least want to have a consciously move forward if we decide to do it, or to decide that, no, it is time, and times are different from what they were 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and it might be time to abolish it. Not saying we're there yet, but I'm saying we should have those serious discussions way before next season, fireworks season, if you will.
Robert, could I interject something on what you just said? Could I just interject a quick question?
Yes, sir.
Idea of abolishing was presented by past council and was put on the ballot for a measure. My only question would be for the attorney, Tiffany, to abolish, does it simply take a vote of the council, as I think it does, or does it have to be a vote of the people since it was voted by the people the time before?
Hi, Jim. This is Tiffany. Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we looked at this a month or so ago, and I think it was only advisory, so I don't think it would take a vote of the people to undo. But we'll confirm that and let you all know.
Yeah, I'm curious on what that's correct. It was two ballot measures that were both advisory ballot measures. I don't have them in front of me, but yeah, that's something I can send. So it was a non-binding, in other words.
Right.
Correct. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And the other I want to mention about, as Councilman Pat Kearney stated, we had our second Lawndale care package giveaway where we gave food and supplies to those in need, chiefly seniors, a couple of hundred seniors and families. And I want to thank the Parks and Recs. First of all, I want to thank the council because the council did put some of the discretionary funds into it. So thanks for all the members of the council for not only this this portion, but we did a few, maybe about a month ago or so, we did the first one. And so this was a continuation of that effort. But the Parks and Recs Commission put in $5,000 for the effort. And I want to thank all the commissioners for that contribution, as well as Mike Estes, who did an outstanding job on both, on both efforts, both times we did it rather, helping to put it together and coordinating the donations and the food drop-offs, along with Pastor Eddie Vargas at the Life Restoration of Church here in the city of Lawndale. So I just want to thank everyone for the part they played in Lawndale care package. The third thing I want to ask of the city attorney, just a follow-up on the administrative citation process program that we authorized, I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago. I wanted to see where are we on that program, on getting that program up and running.
Mayor Michael Reyes.
If you can report back later if you don't have anything, that's fine.
Oh no, sure. Michael Reyes and Kevin Chun are negotiating there are a lot of intricate details to implement that, and so they're still figuring out how everything's going to work out so that we can bring that back to you. There's going to be an ordinance to add a new chapter to the municipal code to formally enact that, but it should be coming soonish.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that, Madam City Attorney.
You're welcome.
Okay, with that, thank you. With that, we have exhausted most of our agenda except for closed sessions. We do have 3 closed sessions. I'm going to ask the City Attorney to give the provision of the closed session for which we will go under. Madam City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council will meet in closed session on 3 items as you referenced. The first is to confer with its labor negotiator. The second is to confer with legal counsel regarding a matter of anticipated litigation as the city is considering whether to initiate litigation against the Best Western plus South Bay Hotel, Baymont Inn, and the County of Los Angeles. And the third is a public employee performance evaluation. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, very good. So at this time, we will recess the closed session.
Actually, Mayor, I think there's one public comment.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and read the public comment. This was for item 15, Pam London, Lawndale resident. Still waiting for answers about the future of room key no-tells. Will there be purchased and turned into permanent housing for the homeless? Lawndale and other cities have been royally screwed by the county. If these no-tells are sold and become part of Project Home Key, the loss of revenue will be devastating to the city budget. Other businesses will leave in droves because they will not want to be associated with Lawndale. What reputable business would want to come to Lawndale? Residential property values will plummet. I hope Lawndale will hire a more experienced law firm, one that will go to bat for the city and not give in or give up. It is past time that Lawndale take the lead and not just follow the broken. The residents of Lawndale deserve better. Lawndale should never throw up its hands and accept defeat. Win or lose, the city should file lawsuits against the county and the no-tells. Hopefully the city will come up with a multitude of complaints so that the courts cannot just ignore the costs that the city has and will incur. The city is too small for large homeless shelters. No city should have homeless shelters on their main boulevard. When considering the lawsuit, I hope that you include the salaries of our municipal service staff, also including any and all costs from medical related to their exposure. I know they have been working from home due to exposure to COVID. This means we have no one to write parking tickets, handle code cases, etc. Again, I have to ask, why was our employee put in harm's way? Why not phone calls? Is this fair to ask of our employees and their families? I think so. That ends public comment for item 15.
Okay, thank you for that public comment. At this time, we will go into Okay, we have returned from closed session. I'm going to ask the city attorney to give the report of the closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council met in closed session on 3 items as agendized as items J14, 15, and 16 to confer with the labor negotiator regarding anticipated litigation and for an employee performance evaluation. On all 3 items, the council was updated. No reportable action. Thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello.
No.
Hello, we got you.
There.
Hello?
We're good. Robert, can you hear?
You're there.
Robert.
You're there.
You're there, Robert.
First to Robert.
Do I have to finish the meeting?
Yeah, take over.
I wonder if
Oh man, I don't have the script in front of me.
I wonder if he's on mute.
The next
Our
meeting's
next
on the
meeting-
20th.
Can I end it?
Yes.
Okay. I don't remember what the words are, but our next regular held council meeting will held via WebEx will be held on July 20th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. I hereby adjourn this meeting.
Good job.
Good job.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good day.